President, there's a measles outbreak in Texas at the moment in which a child is reported to have died. Do you have concerns about that? And have you asked Secretary Kennedy to look into that?
Well, why don't we, Bobby, do you want to speak on that?
No, we are following the measles epidemic every day. I think there's 124 people who have contracted measles at this point in Kings County, Texas. It's not unusual. We have measles outbreaks every year.
The Trump administration has to some extent soured on Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. because of the fact that his messaging on the measles outbreak has not been very direct. It hasn't been clear, and they were expecting more. Now we're learning that the White House is furious that he didn't put out an official statement for days after a child died of measles for the first time in over a decade in the United States. So look, we've previously shared the details of the measles outbreak in the US in addition to RFK Jr.'s lackluster response to the very serious issue. Now this report from Axios shares details about the White House's frustrations. Now, about 2 days, Cenk, after that child died from measles, RFK Jr. finally put out a statement. He wrote, "My heart goes out to the families impacted by the current measles outbreak in Texas. I recognize the serious impact of this outbreak on families, children, and healthcare workers. Ending the measles outbreak is a top priority for me and my extraordinary team at HHS." And then I'm gonna tell you what he did after that, but before I do, thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm torn on this story because this is definitely a hatchet job. Somebody's trying to knife him within the administration, but it could still be true, right? So we're gonna get into the details in a second. Not the measles part, the measles part is clear, that was all public, but the part that Anna's about to tell you. I'm also curious what you guys think of this poll, and I always mention it when I'm curious. How concerned are you with RFK as HHS secretary? So that's in the live chat, and so not at all, slightly, moderately, extremely. I'm curious what you guys are thinking about him. So let's see if they have an effective attack against him or not. Let's find out.
So again, let's just summarize what we know so far. Child dies of measles. RFK Jr. does not put out a statement until 2 days after that. And then 2 days after he puts out a statement, the secretary wrote an op-ed for Fox News. Measles outbreak is call to action for all of us. That was the headline for the op-ed piece. Not the quickest response, obviously. And according to a White House official involved with the measles response at the time, the White House was like, where the F is the statement? CNN was blaring this chyron about how Kennedy was silent, and there was just nothing from the department because of Stephanie. Now, who's Stephanie? Looks like Stephanie's the real person they want to do a hatchet job on. So Stephanie is gonna come up a lot in this story. Her name is Stephanie Spear. She is RFK Jr.'s deputy chief of staff who has actually served as his advisor for more than a decade. They seem to be very close. The White House feels that she is the one basically derailing the agency, that she has too much influence, too much power over RFK Jr. And they claim that she's basically stopping HHS external communications, restricting access to Kennedy, and even insisting on controlling messaging while also under communicating. So Axios writes that since the measles debacle, the White House communications team has handled more press relations on behalf of HHS than any other department, and often has acted as a contact between reporters and the agency. So the agency itself is supposed to be communicating with reporters and getting their message out, but apparently you have the White House communications team doing that instead, or in lieu of the communications team for HHS. One White House advisor told Axios, "This shouldn't be the White House's job, but here we are." Another White House official told the Daily Mail, "I've been in meetings where they've been roasted for effing everything up. They just don't seem to communicate very well. HHS staffers kind of do their own thing, and we find out about it on TV versus going through the White House like other agencies and departments do." And it's not just in regard to the measles outbreak, apparently. On March 9th, a department insider leaked a Reuters article leaked to Reuters, I should say. So a department insider leaked to Reuters that the CDC planned to study unsupported claims of a link between vaccines and autism. Health and Human Services refused to comment initially at Spears' direction. The White House got involved and forced a response. And by the way, it was also reported last week that the study would actually be carried out by a guy named David Greer, and he's apparently a long discredited vaccine skeptic. Not a good look at all, especially since we're in the middle of a measles outbreak. That's super dangerous. There's a kid who died. This is not good. Now his medical license was, by the way, suspended in Maryland for claims of endangering children with autism. And when he was reached out for comment by the press, no one would respond. And I have more examples for you, but that's the gist of it, Cenk.
Yeah, so I'm a little skeptical. So let me explain why. Stephanie Spear was a Democrat at some point. I don't know what she is now. And so I've seen people within the Trump team try to push her out before because they don't trust her because of that. So now the story keeps quoting the White House, but there is no the White House. There's different actors within the White House. So the White House officially says, no, we have no problems at HHS. Meanwhile, these people are leaking from inside the White House. So what that usually means is it's someone who's trying to remove Stephanie Spear. It's an internal conflict and an internal political opponent, right? So then you look at the specifics. Yes, but did they get her, right? First of all, David Dreyer or whatever his name is, that doesn't have anything to do with her. That's RFK Jr.'s decision. We come back to that, right? So the measles, again, that's more on RFK Jr. than it is necessarily on Stephanie Spear. And then so the main complaint they have is she's a little slow. Okay, by the way, that could be a real issue, especially with the measles outbreak, 2 days, etc. But is it enough of an issue that the White House would be super concerned and want to throw one of their own under the bus?
It's hard to believe, to be honest.
No way.
Yeah,
no
especially
way.
Considering all the other dramas, controversies, scandals that have come up during the Trump administration. Usually they just ignore it and they move forward.
Look, you got to separate out whether it's a real issue and why they're doing it, right? So if Pete Hegseth was a couple of days late in responding to X, Y, or Z, would there be stories in Politico about it? It depends. Does he have political enemies within the White House? If he does, yes, but probably he doesn't, so they wouldn't. I mean, Pete Hegseth did Signalgate, 10,000 times worse, and he didn't get fired.
Mike Waltz is still in the administration. He's the one who added Atlantic reporter Jeffrey Goldberg to said Signalgate conversation.
Yeah, so that's why I'm super skeptical about this story. It seems like, and by the way, it happens in every administration. Somebody leaks against the other person who's their political rival, etc. So on the other hand, so how's he doing? Well, obviously I wanted a better response on measles. Am I surprised they were late? As they were probably thinking, should we or shouldn't we, right?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. This David Geyer guy, of course, a disaster, but Anna, I don't know. When I see an articles, they're like, and then he brought in this guy, which was shocking. They literally used the word.
But it's not shocking.
Of course,
it is not shocking given what RFK Jr.'s whole identity is. Look, he has put out some statements that I agree with in regard to like the FDA being corrupt or certain food dyes or chemicals being in the food that Americans consume and how it's making us sick. Those are the good parts of RFK Jr. But that's not what RFK Jr. is really known for. RFK Jr. is known for his vaccine skepticism, okay? And so now all of a sudden there are White House officials or members of the Trump White House who are like, oh, this doesn't look good. There's a vaccine skeptic who's gonna study the link between vaccines and autism.
You could tell me the Democrats are concerned about that, but you can't tell me that the Trump administration is concerned about that. How do you pick RFK Jr. and get surprised when he brings in a vaccine skeptic? That's why I'm a hatchet job skeptic here in this story. So this is some internal BS that's going on here. And in terms of the substance of bringing in Geyer, A, not at all surprising. B, if he hands off the entire policy to him, oh, we got a policy paper and this genius tells us that we shouldn't do vaccines. Hell no, hell no. We know if he really wants to put out that thing, they're going to block him in 100 different ways anyway. What he should do is get that guy and an actual scientist and have them debate nationally. That would do more for people actually finding out about this than any study this guy's going to publish at HHS, et cetera, et cetera. So, but nobody does anything in a balanced way. And lastly, all this stuff is tiny compared to RFK Jr. is at HHS. He could insist on negotiating drug prices, and the American consumers would save trillions of dollars, not even billions, trillions of dollars. That's what he should do. I asked about it after Donald Trump's joint address to the nation, and he said, we're gonna work on drug prices, but he didn't say that they were going to negotiate with the drug companies at Medicare. And by the way,
oh, come on.
I know, so it's
just so lame.
So that's why I don't believe him. I don't think it's gonna happen. They're not gonna do anything with drug prices. And then finally, if you remember, the first thing he did when he went to HHS was he declared anti-Semitism to be a health problem.
So, I mean, it's the most important issue in America. Yeah, you know, my mom's sick right now, and I keep thinking it's anti-Semitism that did this to her.
Yeah. Apparently, RFK Jr.
Unbelievable.
agrees. So last thing, guys, you could see us disagreeing with people and their policies while being honest to you about that story and where it's coming from.
Yep. I mean, we've got less than 4 minutes, so.
Okay, so look, in the bonus episode, we're gonna do some fun stories.
We're gonna do all of the remaining stories, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so number one, a surprising Biden insider comes out with juicy details of how bad a shape he was in when he was debating. Although he's a fascinating guy that says things on both sides. And then Obama apparently had a secret plan against Kamala Harris.
He does not like Kamala.
Wow, interesting. So I say wow, although I told you guys that was happening when it was happening, right? And all the Democratic loyalists said, you're crazy, it's a conspiracy theory.
No, to be fair to those folks, because I'm part of that group, I didn't believe that Obama was out for Kamala. I thought he liked Kamala, to be honest with you. And I think the reason why I thought that is because he slipped up and like basically called her hot when he was president, remember?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But look, guys, there's certain telltale things that when you see X, you should know it's like that it means Y, right? So when I do the predictions on the show, what I'm trying to get you to see is that things are predictable, right? If there are certain patterns, and I don't think that they're that complicated. And that's why I was kind of amazed at mainstream media's reaction when Obama did the couple of things that he did, both against Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.